All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is Tony Carroll with another edition of the Mayday Monday. This is the Mayday Monday for August of 2021. Before we get started, before we get into the meat of the hour or so, we want to take a moment and acknowledge those firefighters who have passed away since the last time we got together. There was a recruit firefighter in Chesterfield, Virginia. During his recruit training, he passed away. A volunteer firefighter outside of Philadelphia was found unresponsive on the floor, the third floor of a burning house in the suburbs there. That was sad. That was like he was getting ready to go to, I think, Australia with his family and move out of the town, and that was his last run. It was a captain from Florida who died of an apparent heart attack. A firefighter from Florida who they determined that he took his own life. Volunteer assistant chief from New Jersey. He died on the scene of an automobile fire. Two members were out performing air recon for the Cedar Basin fire in Arizona, and their plane crashed. I do think that one of them was a retired chief from out that area. A lot of the people I see knew him. A volunteer in Arizona was killed after being struck by a fire department vehicle while operating on a highway crash. Again, one of those shake your heads at. A firefighter was also a firefighter, and several firefighters and a police officer was struck on the highway outside of Philadelphia, and a firefighter died of his injuries. Those highway incidents remain, one of our big dangers out there. I know where I am now, we have a pretty major highway that comes through, and it's always scary when the runs come out. So please take some time over the next month or so and review what has happened to those 9 fire service members who died since the last time we got together. This month, our firefighter survival campaign focuses on Western New York, way up there next to the Great Lakes, and the Buffalo Fire Department. With me to talk about this incident is Mike Lombardo. Mike, we've met a couple different places. Andy Fredericks was a big place where I know I met you the first time, and you get to come back this year and present, it looks like.
Yes.
Good, that's awesome. Mike, do you mind giving everybody who's listening a little bit about who you are and what got you here today?
Sure. I've been in the fire service about 43 years now. The majority of that was in Buffalo, New York. I started out as a firefighter, went through the ranks to finally be the fire commissioner of the Buffalo Fire Department. I've been a volunteer firefighter one place or another most of my career also, both before I got on Buffalo and still to this day, not only down in Western New York, but also down in Delaware, where we lived for a while before we moved back up home. When I was commissioner, we had 3 members dying on line of duty. One who had been in a coma for a long time, about 9.5 years, and 2 guys who died in a fire at a delicatessen on Genesee Street when there was a collapse. And we're going to talk about that today.
So, are you volunteering now back home?
I am, yes.
Which one did you join up there?
So I was living in an apartment while we were looking for a house, and I was in Gettsville, New York. But right now I'm moving over to the East Amherst Fire Company in East Amherst, New York. And it's just outside of Buffalo, about 10 miles.
Where, again, my kid goes to Damon. So where is that relation to where she is?
So if you went out Main Street to Transit Road, and then you went north on Transit Road, East Amherst is about 5 miles from Main Street.
That's through what is that, Williamsville?
Yep, correct.
And going more west or going more east?
A little bit east and a little bit north. And right next door is Gettsville, which is the one I was in already. And that's just north of Damon.
Did you go to that big fire, that warehouse fire in Amherst?
Yes, I did the other day. I was in the tower ladder for Gettsville Ladder 6, and we operated for quite a while. They were there for a couple of days, actually.
What was that, tires or something?
No, it was a PPE manufacturer.
Like masks for COVID masks?
masks, gowns, that kind of stuff. So I guess their inventory was up. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah. It looked like quite a fire, quite a blaze.
Yes, it was, and it was very, very, very close to the approach of the runway at the airport. So that was
Okay. I know where that is then. I've been there.
not far at all.
Yeah.
Not far from Damon at all, Tony.
Yeah.
At all. Sort of around the corner, you know.
There's some impressive departments up there. I know that Snyder by campus has got a really nice operation there.
Yeah, a friend of mine, a guy who was in my crew at Rescue One in Buffalo, is the chief there, Mark Van Horn. And but a lot of them, Gettsville, we have a nice training center that the guys have put together out of shipping containers that they've done a spectacular job. So yeah, there's some pretty good operations up here.
I guess I saw the Cleveland. Is that the
Cleveland Hill?
Cleveland Hill. Yeah. I saw, I guess, some recent pictures, and I see them driving through the neighborhoods and stuff.
Yeah.
Again, another nice operation that they have.
Just south of Damon, just south of there. They touch Snyder.
Yeah, there's lots of little communities around there that have quite the volunteer fire departments.
Yes.
Is there like a county department that leads that, or is it all?
They're all independent. New York's a big time home rule state. And for many years, a town or township couldn't have a fire department. Communities could, cities could, but towns couldn't. Now they can. That law's been changed. But consequently, you don't see, like you do down in the Mid-Atlantic region, you don't see countywide operations very, very much, or even large town-wide operations. They're more community-based.
So I'm sure you're all on the same radio system, though, right? Or is that even?
There are in Erie County, let me think. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8 or 9 separate dispatch centers.
Wow.
They can all talk to each other, but they are run by, and they'll have anywhere from 10 to 20 fire departments as part of that dispatch center.
So Erie County,
right?
How many departments are in Erie County?
I think 99.
Wow, is it that big?
It's about 1 million people in about 1,000 square miles.
1,000. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. That is big. I just went to a place that's 500 square miles, and there's only 40,000 people. So it's quite the rural operation. And
so here, the county, not completely, but the upper half of the county is much more populated than the lower half.
And that counts Buffalo in Erie County then?
Correct.
I see. Okay. All right, let's talk about Buffalo then. Buffalo is a pretty big town. It's obviously not as big as others that we deal with, but for New York, it's the second largest town. Is that right?
Yes, we missed first place by 8 million.
8 million.
It's probably had closer to 300,000 people. But when I was a kid, it was almost 600,000 people. So
600. So that many have moved out, all because of like manufacturing things that have moved out.
Exactly. Although the last decade, a lot has come back.
Is that because they want to live downtown, like the cool, like hip?
Yeah, but the whole area, a lot of biotech, a lot of different things that have brought. I think Forbes magazine said a couple of years ago that it was the best place in the United States for a young engineer. And there's a lot going on. So it's good to see, not only in the city, but outside the city too. So there's good things happening.
So does that mean that it's becoming more white collar with engineering jobs, or is it still
much more white collar than it was a generation or two ago? Absolutely.
So 250,000, but that's full time. You have a bunch of people who come in the day, so it probably balloons during the workday, or at least did before the pandemic.
It does. Yeah, it still does. And also, what a lot of people don't realize is Buffalo and Western New York's a pretty big college town. A lot of people don't equate that, but there's, the University of Buffalo, the Buffalo State College, Canisius College, D'Youville, Damon,
Yeah.
Mayday. There's quite a few schools in the city of Buffalo and around the city of Buffalo, as you well know.
Yeah, I mean, UB's a big campus, right?
About 40,000.
40,000. Wow. Yeah, that is big. So, and then the other places are kind of small. I mean, my kids is 1,500. I'm sure the others are
like Buff State's probably a 5,000 or 6,000 kids, but all together there's quite a few, Trocaire, and there's a lot of those. They're smaller, but together they equate quite a bit.
No, I thought it's a really neat place. It definitely is a city, but it doesn't seem to be as bustle. I mean, as busy as, obviously with DC and what I know. Sure. And then of course, DC is just so cutthroat. It seems to be a little bit more, fun, like togetherness in Buffalo, like you're all, in it together. And you're not out to get each other necessarily.
It's a pretty tight community. And pretty, the bills and everything else, but it's pretty tight community. Western New York is a pretty nice place to raise kids. There's a lot of snow, but beyond that, even the weather isn't that bad. The summers are great. It's pretty temperate. Even in the winter, there's snow, but it doesn't get that cold. Often it doesn't hit zero,
Yeah, the few times I've been there, it's beautiful, and to get outside of the city, even, it's really, really neat. And seems like there's lots of things to do too. Obviously, Niagara Falls is amazing.
Right,
but there's other things.
15 miles above the city, and the only thing is that with COVID, it's all been changed a little bit. But Canada is a mile away across the river, 2 miles away across the bridge, And so that adds another dimension to it. There's, between colleges and the size the city used to be, there's a lot going on for a place its size.
Yeah. So
pro hockey team, pro football team, and because of COVID this year,
baseball.
Yeah, they've hosted the Blue Jays at Salem Field this whole summer, so it's been sort of.
I heard they're going back though. They're going back before, now. They're moving back now.
They're literally going back right now.
Yeah, that's too bad. I mean, that's whether they seem to be doing okay. They're not the worst, but they did get some crowds out there. I know it was neat too to see when the Nats go up and play them. It's like they're playing at a spring training field, So it
holds about 30,000. Although it's funny, early on they were trying to get a major league team, but the Buffalo Bisons, which is the minor league team that plays here normally, routinely would beat attendance of 2 or 3 major league places. So it was sort of interesting. Yeah.
That's cool. The minute you go to the majors, you're going to add that price tag, and you won't be able to afford to go to a game, At least now.
That's a little bit of what happened is, they were pushing. They built the stadium, which is very nice. And then people said, the play in the minor league team, the play is great. And you can go for a few bucks.
Yeah.
The whole family, hot dogs, Cracker Jacks, the whole thing for $50,
Yeah.
And that's a nice day.
We just lost one. My where I live here in Virginia, it was a single A team. So it was, 5,000 in the capacity, and they moved to another town. So it kind of sucks. It was nice to go to. So what about all the Indian history? Obviously, there's still some reservations outside of towns.
So there's a couple big ones. There's one north of the city near Niagara Falls. And there's there's 2 south of the city, one right at the edge of the county and one further south near the PA line. Western New York is a huge Native American area, really all through the Finger Lakes and everything else. And, everything from longhouses to everything else, the 5 tribes, made up the Mohawk, the Seneca, the Tuscarora, and I won't remember them all, but the Indian tribes that were really big, and they were really big in different things, the Revolutionary War as well as the War of 1812. The Buffalo in 1813, Buffalo was burned down by the British during the War of 1812. And Native Americans were fought in that war also. But there's a huge history. A lot of the town names, Tonawanda, Cheektowaga, Seneca, all came from different Indian tribes. The Skajakwata Expressway, which most people have a pretty tough time trying to say the first time they see it written. So it's usually neat when your GPS tries to say it. But there's a very good history of Native Americans in our area.
We go along the highway along the south side of Lake Erie.
Okay.
Right, and go to is that almost to Cleveland?
Well, like you go almost to Erie, PA.
Yeah, and then we go south down to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and 79. Yep, I know where you mean.
So there's a lot of there's some Indian reservations out that way.
Yeah. Cattaraugus Indian reservation is out that way. And they have a large casino in a place called Salamanca.
Okay. Yeah, good. So that seems like that the Indian history obviously goes way back, and it's all throughout your area. It's pretty neat. Yeah. So again, another thing about Buffalo I thought was that the neighborhoods, while there's different diversity, it seems like, again, like they're all into Buffalo, right? They're all seem to be pretty tight.
Yeah, and it is a city of neighborhoods, Cold Spring and North Buffalo, South Buffalo, Kaisertown, Black Rock, Riverside. They're all different neighborhoods. They have their own little uniqueness.
Yeah.
And they do sort of come together. It's a pretty, as I had said earlier, pretty tight place.
So speaking of tight, let's talk about the Buffalo Fire Department.
Sure.
I'm sure that's a pretty tight organization.
So today, about 750 members, fully paid department in 1880. Today, like I said, about 750. At its height, about 1,300 members. So again, same thing, almost half where they were. The fire department, 19 engines, 9 ladder companies, a heavy rescue, operating in 4 battalions with a division chief in charge on each shift.
You forgot about that big fireboat. That's a big boat, huh?
Yeah, it's about 120 feet, 16,000 GPM, and it's the oldest active fireboat in the world. It's 121 years old.
Yeah, I saw this. That's been celebrated the last couple of months, right? That it just turned 120 years old.
Yeah, and going strong. Doesn't do a lot of firefighting because that's, we used to be all grain mills and warehouses, and now we're condos and marinas.
Yeah.
It does break ice every year.
Goes out. We've kept on to one. We got the DC got the Firefighter. It was now it's John Glenn, right? We got the John Glenn from him. And again, so that's 60s. So it's pretty old, not 100 years old, but that's one of the things they keep it on is, it can break ice, so we got to keep it. Like we don't get ice like you guys do, but they want to hold on to this thing and keep it alive. So they keep pumping money every so often to make it last a few more years.
Yeah, and this has a foundation tied to it that helps raise funds for it also.
Oh, is that right? That's cool. That's good. Yeah. Then it's kind of its own thing then.
Yes. As well as, there's municipal money that goes into it also.
So it was also pretty neat looking, get ready for this. You have firehouses that were built in the 1890s, and then you have some that were built in 2010, or that big one there in the middle was pretty new firehouse.
Yep. We must have now 5 or 6 that are either at or over 100 years old.
Yeah.
1887, I think engine 19's 1887. Engine 2's firehouse is newer, but they had been in a place that was 1860, not too long ago. So yeah, we have some old places, as well as probably about 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 that have been built in the last decade and a half.
Yeah, and so those, I know that we had the issue where we had to enlarge the doors, right? And then because it's a historic landmark, you had to kind of keep the front. So we had to replicate the front to be like it was before, but somehow work in some wider doors so the modern fire truck could fit through there. I'm sure you guys had the same issue.
Yeah, that. And the other thing is, if you went in the basement of some of the old ones, it looked like a forest of support posts, because the place was, so old, just to make sure everything was good.
So 19 engines, staff, are those staffed with 4 firefighters?
Yeah, an officer and 3, correct. 9 trucks, same thing. And then our heavy rescue with 5.
So the ladder trucks are also 4, and then you say the rescue's 5. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Is the hazmat unit, is that a individually staffed, or is that like a cross staff thing?
Cross staffed.
Now I'm sure that's pretty active, or I'm sure now, as things have changed, it was active years ago, but I'm sure they still get a good amount of hazardous materials runs in that city.
Yeah, and also, Niagara Falls is still one of the bigger chemical places in the United States, so we get a little bit of offshoot of that.
Good. So what kind of shifts are you guys are they still doing the 12s and 14s, or?
We did the 9 and 15 forever, 2 days, 2 days off 4. But they went to, in 2013 or 14, I'm not sure exactly which year I was done. They went to 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 5 days off, which is a 4 platoon shift still, 4 groups.
Yeah, nice. At least they got the 24-hour shifts.
Yes, although a lot of guys didn't mind the other one.
Well, it definitely makes for a cohesive, right? I mean, you're there, so you're together quicker, more often, and
right.
You get to be a very cohesive group of a family.
And
when you do that,
and I guess we should all be happy we don't do that. But your second day is a very enticing day to stop after work.
Yeah.
And if you stop after work working 24s, people start to talk about you, so at 7:30 in the morning. So
yeah. Although, I mean, you can't drink all day if you don't start early, right?
Right, exactly.
So let's talk about the members involved in this incident. The 2 firefighters who passed away in the fire, Chip McCarthy and Jonathan Croom. Chip was a 23-year veteran, assigned to Rescue 1.
Yeah, Lieutenant of Rescue 1 on the 3rd platoon. And Chip was, when I was captain of Truck 11, he was in my place on the 4th platoon. Real good guy. I'd known him in and out of the department. And just a terrific guy. Very good firefighter. Very aggressive guy.
What was into teaching, things like that? Was he a big fire department force? Did he do a lot of things off the job for the fire department, or off the days off?
No, he was a second fronter. He painted houses.
How I did see that. I did see where his brother, I guess his brother got on the job too.
His brother Danny's a lieutenant, and I'll talk about that. But that was one of the little factors, not a factor, but a influence at the fire was we had 5 McCarthys at the fire. Oh,
wow. So again, his brother wrote something for Fire Hero, and it said that he could paint a house in a day, and he could, and it was definitely that was his thing, was painting houses. He could get it done fast, and also that he had 7 dogs.
Oh yeah, and they were great big dogs.
Oh, that he didn't go for like little lap dogs. These were big dogs.
No, great big dogs, and Chip would wrestle with him, and he'd come in, what happened to your arms? Oh, well, I was fighting with the dogs, playing with the dogs. And yeah, they were great big dogs.
So Chip was survived by 4 kids, another Charles, Shannon, and Stephanie.
Right, 3 kids and a grandchild.
Granddaughter Taliana. Yeah, it's 7 dogs. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Jonathan had been with the department for 10 years at the time of the incident.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Good guy. And he had a daughter, and his fiance was also expecting at the time.
And I saw in researching it too, it seemed like his mother was a big part of his life. And there's a picture there, he looks just like his mom.
Yeah, Angie's super. She's a nurse supervisor at the VA hospital. Just a tremendous person. Has done a lot to keep John's life in front of us all. And she's just an amazing, tremendous person. She really is.
It sounds like he did a lot of athletic stuff on his days off, running around town and staying pretty active.
Yep, very much so. And real good firefighter. In this incident, went in after Chip, and it cost him his life. But he was nothing short of an absolute hero.
Yeah, like his natural reflex, right, was just to go and activate and engage.
And there's things we'll never, ever know, like many line of duty deaths. There's things you surmise. But at one point, John, right after the Mayday, is at the front door of the delicatessen, and he points. And we think everybody heard Chip over the radio, but we think that John also heard him, meaning with his ears, right? Not on the radio, because he was that close. And we'll never know that, but a lot of us, speculate that that's part of what happened. And we'll talk about it as we go along here, but there was other factors involved in that.
So the building itself, right? The building is a mixed use. It's the building here on the, oops, I lost my space.
On the right.
This building, this 2-story building, pretty unassuming, right? Like any other corner in Buffalo, probably.
Yep.
With a deli on the first floor and apartments also on the first, and then apartments above.
That is correct. A couple apartments on the second floor and one apartment in the rear on the first floor.
So it was connected to this building, but by only on the second floor?
Yeah, so in 1927, when these places were built, it was a big dentist's office. And they had that walkway that went across.
I see. So this is the back down on the bottom left. It shows the 2 places. So a lot of the action sounds like it was on the Bravo, or I guess you guys call it the number 2 side.
Yes, correct. We're 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes.
And that's where the entrances, or there was also an entrance to the apartments here on the one floor.
Number 1 or alpha side. Yep.
And then another entrance took you upstairs on the 2 Bravo side.
That's correct.
So again, the action kind of took them to the Bravo side. Is that so? When they got there, they were told that one of the bystanders said they heard people knocking on the door.
So we had 3 reports. They were so credible that ATF actually asked the 2 of the people who gave reports to provide a polygraph. They agreed to, and they came through 100%. There was a man who lived upstairs that Chip and his crew got out of the building. There was a man walking by. And then the 3rd report was from Chip himself. He came out and said, Chief, 12 feet in, or 20 feet in, 12 feet over, I can hear people screaming and hollering and pounding. And that was the report. We got all 3 reports. To this day, I don't have an answer for you. I honestly, in my heart, think someone was down there, but got out some way, because, NIOSH in the end said, oh, it must have been pipes clanking. this is a trained fire officer. He knows the difference. You know what I mean? But also the people's reports were so emphatic that, yeah, we heard these people screaming for help and pounding, trying to get out of the basement. So yeah, there was reports of people trapped. As I said, there were people there was a man on the second floor. Chip's crew and Chip got them out. They came back down and, they went from there.
So I just want, let's probably back up a little bit so we can, this was at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:50 in the morning.
Yeah, 3:51 was the initial alarm.
And the companies were close, right? I mean, it's a downtown city, so the companies aren't too far away.
Yeah, Engine 31 and Ladder 14 saw it when they opened the door. They were about a big block away.
So they were there within 2 minutes.
Yep.
And
yep.
Did they have smoke coming from the building?
Heavy smoke condition. The lieutenant reported a lot of bars and a lot of high security on all the windows and exits of the building. And they reported, it sounds like we have a fire in the basement.
So it's got some really good Italian meats or something in that deli to have that kind of fortified building. I mean, it was fortified, right?
It was pretty fortified. No, it had, I think, a lot of maybe nefarious stuff going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, not unusual.
Which was not that uncommon in some of these delis around the different parts of the city.
I got you. So, and something that they probably had, that you've met that before on other fires.
We have run into that exactly in other
But this one seemed to be even tougher.
So the building beat the shit out of us, Tony. I mean, it really did for a simple little building. They got in the front. So one of the things, and I don't know your pictures exactly, but one of the things on the 2 or Bravo side, the right side of the screen right now, see that door?
This one right here?
Yes. So the owner of the building at almost 4 o'clock in the morning is there. He doesn't live near there. Says, this is how we go in every day. So the crews, it's heavy smoke in the alleyway. They work on this door. They finally get this door open, and there's a huge walk-in cooler behind the door. No one goes in that way.
That's over here on the left. I got that from your report there.
Yeah. So that was a little weird. The actual door that they go in is the one lower. It's a little bit further, and it goes to the upper apartment, to the basement, and to the back of the deli.
That's this area behind the cooler.
Behind the cooler. That's still the deli. You're absolutely right. So the crews, they go in, they get this back apartment, the Truck 14, Rescue 1 get the back apartment, and the upper 2 apartments searched as their first priority. Engine 22 takes a line in the rear. Engine 31 takes a line towards the basement. And 23 has a line that goes to the second floor from the front, from the side 1 or alpha side of the building. And as I said, then the crews find the one man up there, help him get out of the building. He's also the one of the reports of people saying that there's, people screaming for help and calling for help.
So 22 eventually said they had fire coming through the floor, right?
That is correct.
But that was a couple of minutes into the operation.
Yeah, that was a little ways in. So one of the things, I've talked about for a long, long time, one of the things that's tough, and a lot of fires, doesn't have to be a line of duty death, we can all suffer from time compression and time expansion. And I think everybody's been at a fire where we went, man, we were there forever, and you were there 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And another fire, you go, man, we were waiting for water, forever, and it was 1 minute and 4 seconds, and you thought it was 15. And other times where you go, we were in there for 15 minutes, and you were only in there for 2.5. You know what I mean? And it just happens to us. And I think it was part of this situation. One situation after Chip came down from the second floor, his crew was getting bottles changed. And he was done, of course, quick. He's right back to the incident commander. He goes, I'm going in. on the first floor to see what we can find the deli side. And 23 was there with the line. And the incident commander said, well, Chip, hang on a second. Where's your crew? He goes, well, they're at the rig. They're getting bottles, but they'll be right here. He goes, well, so ladder 7 was the RIT or fast team. And Firefighter Croom was right there with his officer and his crew. And he goes, take Firefighter Croom with you. And he told the officer, take him in. So they went in. And when they went in, they found a delivery opening. Do you see my little arrow?
No, I can't see yours, but I think, was that over in this area?
Just shy
underneath the stairs, right?
Just past that, though, not to the stairs, just shy of it. And it was the old fashioned, you lift the trap door in the floor in the deli, and they could shoot the, kegs of beer or different, groceries or whatever else up and down. And you could put a stairs in, or you could put rollers in.
Yeah.
So they found that, and they make a report, 23 and Chip make a report. We got water on the fire. And they were hitting flames, fire coming out of that hole. The reason that's so important is that, again, speculation, when the Mayday occurs, we wonder if Jonathan, who was now back outside with his crew, is like, I know where this guy fell in. It's that opening we saw. And in reality, the collapse was 6 or 8 feet short of that opening, and a large area where it had collapsed.
Like over by the coolers in front of the coolers, right?
Right where you're doing that, exactly.
That's is that this picture on the bottom there? That's the collapse area that they fell into?
Yes. And Chip fell into that, called a Mayday, got Mayday out 3 times, basically screaming. And the next thing was Jonathan out front, the crew's out front. The chief sends the crew to the Bravo side or 2 side to see if they can help get that basement opened up. And in the commotion, Jonathan scoots in the building. His crew goes around the corner into a very, very heavily charged basement stairwell and operates for the next few minutes, and doesn't realize they don't have Jonathan. But as I said, that goes back to a little bit time compression, time expansion. We all thought, the incident commander, but we all thought that the collapse occurred when John and Chip were in there, and it took them both down. And in reality, John was back with his crew. And we had a safety chief at the time. He watched a piece of video for a bunch of times. Finally said, no, here's Jonathan. He grabs his officer's arm, pulls him once. You see him point and then scoot in the building. And he went in that front. And as I said, I think, I'll never know, I think he knew where that, we do know he knew where that opening was. Not the collapse, but the opening.
Right.
I also will always think he heard Chip, literally heard Chip, and went into the building.
And he said, I got this.
I'll
be right in or right out.
Exactly. So we'll never know until, we meet wherever we meet in the next, world. But
what was at the bottom of the basement steps there in that side 2 entry? That was fortified too, right? What was there? Again, a heavy duty. No one had
gotten to those stairs, although a lot of us, that's where it sounded like to the guy upstairs and to Chip, and even the man walking by, where the people were, if there was anybody. Again, we never found anybody, but that was the area that Chip described. That was the area that the man upstairs described as where they heard the people pounding and calling for help. The other thing is, when the collapse occurred, 2 other firefighters from Chip's crew were in the building with him. One was in an aisleway dead in the middle of the store. Okay. Yep. And one was in an aisleway right by the left side of the deli, right over there. And he had all kinds of racks and canned goods and everything else fall on him. And the guy in the middle, the floor collapsed where he was also, but he went in about a foot and was on top of merchandise in the basement and literally just stepped out. And with the collapse, there was a huge discharge of heat, smoke, and fire. And they got in, and as they got in, Jonathan went in. Or when they got out, Jonathan went in, almost like at the same time.
Yeah, I think that reading the report, right? Again, like you say, time compression, time expansion. So they got on the scene at 3:53. At 4:07, they still hadn't made the basement yet. They were saying we're trying to get into it. At 4:12, McCarthy he reports they're putting water on that fire. That was through that dumbwaiter or that hole in the floor area. But they really weren't putting water on the fire,
so
right?
That is one of the things, everybody can, a little bit of a lesson is they were putting water on flames, but by no means had water on the seat of the fire. And that accuracy of a report is a big deal. It really is. And that was one of the tough things about it, was that there was no real water on that fire for a long, long time.
So, and then I guess the incident commander and everybody kind of recognized that and said, let's get everybody out.
Just prior to the Mayday, the incident commander had called everybody out. As a matter of fact, Chip was out, and him and two of his guys said, well, we're going to go in just to make sure everybody's out.
Yeah. Understood, right? I mean, that's what we want to make sure. We know radios don't always communicate well, so let's go jerk on their...
One, that was the rescue company to some degree, and that was also Chip to a great degree. He was that guy, that would make sure that everybody was out. And so there was many attempts. The basement, they had saws down there. The saws wouldn't run due to the amount of smoke in the stairwell. The steps from the landing where the door was 2 up, so they were taking a beating. They were a little higher than the floor, and that added to it. A couple guys got burned in that area. Then they had taken a 2.5 in right through the main part of the deli, and another cooler, that one on the left side, on the Bravo side of the building, came down and for whatever reason just stopped, but it knocked 2 guys. One guy's helmet went in, Chris Ray and Wally Matique almost went into the same hole that Chip and John went into. And that was a ways into the operation a little bit. We were having further collapses now from the upper floor into the deli and to the lower floor. And that's where the incident commander finally had said, we have to knock this fire down. We got to stop for a period of time to get this thing knocked down and controlled until we can get back in. And that was, as you can imagine, a horrific decision to make. But on top of that, also not, a popular decision by any stretch. But really the right thing to do, or we may have had 3, 4, 5, 6 people killed.
No, yeah, I totally understand, especially because it's 3:50 in the morning. It took a while for someone to notice that. So it had to be burning in that basement before the initial 911 call, right? And then you got at least it was 4:21 when Rescue 1 crew goes in to make sure everybody's out.
Right.
So again, I guess the estimated time was 4:23 for that Mayday call. The Mayday message was 4:23. Right. So that's 30 minutes of time you've been on the scene.
That's a long time for a fire in a commercial basement to burn.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. And some of those real basic tenets, 20 minutes, no headway on the fire, right? And that's what the chief was doing. Back everybody out of the building. We're done. So, they were doing the right thing. But unfortunately, the timing wasn't with us.
No, and then I guess the rescue efforts or recovery efforts lasted until about almost 10 o'clock in the morning. Did you have to do some shoring to stabilize it, to get inside and get the guys out? About
9:30 in the morning. It took us to get retrieve John and Chip. And one of the little things, not a big deal in the sense of this incident itself, but we probably had 350 members on the scene by then. we were doing accountability checks, engine 31, 4 from the 3rd platoon plus 11. There were retired guys there. There were disabled guys there. There was off-duty guys there. Virtually entire companies were there, all 4 shifts. So it was a factor of trying to maintain control of people.
Right, and then you're gonna tell them that we can't go in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a real you were everybody's fan at that time. I'm sure.
Right, not fun.
But that's a job that had to be done.
Yeah, and as I said, one of the things. So, and I don't honestly. I'd have to look at the report to have the exact time, but we're into this operation a little bit. We've had one accountability check since, and all of a sudden, Lieutenant Ladder 7 comes up to the command post and goes, "I can't find Jonathan Croom." And we looked around, called over the radio, and this whole time we thought we had one person, and that he had been operating in that stairwell and just thought he had his whole crew. And 11 years later, sitting here in our living rooms, that's easy to say, Jesus, how could that possibly happen? But in the fog of that battle going on, I absolutely could see how that happened. It was very difficult. Accountability is hard, right? No matter what you try and do, accountability is hard. As I said, one of the factors, we had Lieutenant Chip McCarthy of Rescue 1, who lost his life. His brother, Lieutenant Dan McCarthy of Engine 2, was on the scene. His cousin, Lieutenant Pat McCarthy of Ladder 6, was on the scene. A kid named Mike McCarthy and a kid named John McCarthy were on the scene. So at one fire with a guy dead, we had 4 more guys with the same last name.
Yeah.
It sounds easier than it is. And it's not just about some kind of tag or anything else. It's much, much more than that. And that's certainly a factor.
Absolutely. And then you had the 350 members there. I can only imagine that had to be tough to reel that in.
Not easy.
So I'm sure that after that, the fire department with 700 members.
Yes.
This affected all 700 of them.
I certainly think so. Pretty profoundly. We just a tough situation for us, and something very, very sadly that wasn't foreign to us. In my career, we had 20 guys killed in the line of duty. One, not technically, he was killed in Iraq. He was in a firefight. He was in the reserves. We count as a line of duty death in an absolute technical sense. He's not, but the rest, all line of duty deaths. 14 of those were in 7 years, from 1983 to 1990. So we had a very, very, very tough past, and we had tried very hard to work on things to limit our exposure to that. And
so with that in mind, what was the big things that came out of this one?
So accountability from a sense of, from that company officer to his crew, and from the crew back to the company officer. Less about the hardware type aspects and more about the accountability, responsibility of accountability is a two-way street between company officers and their crews. We worked on things to do with firefighter survival, rapid intervention. We had rapid intervention teams at that time. Our third due ladder company sent on an alarm as the rapid intervention team, but to do more work. And then there were simple things. So, one of the things I've gone forward, I was done shortly after this fire. That was in August, and in December, I went back to the battalion from a, nothing to do with this fire, but for political reasons at City Hall. And But one of the things, I've pushed for, like our rapid intervention team, our fast team, there's different things we carry to the scene, like most places, thermal imagers and equipment for retrieving firefighters who are in trouble, so on and so forth. One of the things I said is, also a hose line. Where's a usable hose line? There might be 3 stretched. If there's one more, good. If not, we're going to go get one so that there's a standby hose line. And the other is, if you look at fireground combat fire deaths in the United States for the last 10, 20 years, it's remarkable. And not that they don't count, but I'm not talking about, driving and returning and responding. I'm not talking about medical reasons. But if you look at combat deaths, it's remarkable how many deaths involve firefighters going into a building, going into the basement, both commercial and residential buildings. I mean, it's a staggering amount. And the thing is, one of the things I've pushed a lot of places I've been is, you pull up to a fire, and particularly if you suspect a basement, but maybe not, and you put that 10-foot attic ladder at the front door. It just sits there. And even if it's the pump operator of the first engine, you get the line charge, then you get the attic ladder and throw it at the front door. So it's there. It's not something you have to run and grab. Because those are the kind of things that really, really do seem to become an issue. One of the other things, we had always changed radio channels for a Mayday. And in retrospect, I would not do that. If a monstrous operation with, recovery going on, it's a little different. But the early parts of a Mayday, I'd rather everybody stay on the same channel they were on and just maintain real good radio discipline. Because
that was something that in DC, that a recent SOG change looked at that, right? Because we had the same thing. If you say Mayday, it's going to launch you down this path that you may not be able to turn around from, right?
Right.
So one of those things that did that was the changing of channels, especially when we know that most of the time it's rescued by someone who's on your crew or in close proximity.
Right. And I don't want that other company that's one room away to miss you because they had to change their channel.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's an easy fix too, right? I mean, because it's a really hard thing to do, to change and get everybody on the same page. Because you don't want to change. I don't want to change my channel. I want to hear what's going on.
Right.
I know I'm not supposed to, but you know that there's people that do that. So.
Oh, right. And I just think that it's a case of, we just have to maintain radio discipline. Everybody else. You can't be just on the air talking. But,
right.
And like I say, you have to take it with some judgment. You have a massive building collapse. You're going to be calling in cranes and excavators. That's a little bit different story. But the Mayday of a guy lost or fell into something, I'd much rather everybody on the same channel.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And I think we've heard that from some other of the podcasts, is that, do that, keep it on the same channel, because as much as we think it's a good idea, it doesn't seem to work for those.
Exactly. So yeah, those are the kind of things. And then the other thing is, and I've done it for years and years, the Nance drill and so on and so forth, basement rescue operations of a firefighter. Everybody always looks at like the handcuff knot. And if you're familiar, I think you're familiar with it.
Yes.
The problem with that is that as we get this person up, when we get him up to the top of the hole, all we have is his hands. His entire body still has to come over. So I'd much rather just send a loop down. There's no knot whatsoever. Send a loop down in the SCBA strap and around their leg, and send another loop in the SCBA strap around the leg, and back up again. And I think that you're much more prone to success than you would be with a handcuff knot. And what I like about it is when I pull you up now, whoever is pulling up, when I get you to the opening, I have from your waist or below it, really, up all the way out of the hole. That's a big deal. That's a tremendous difference from your hands extended above your head.
Yeah.
So getting that is a real big deal. It can be put on pretty easily. As easy a knot as the handcuff knot is, there's no knot that's easier than no knot whatsoever.
No, and that's one of the things that we've done. Mayday Monday, we've done a lot of basement stuff, and one that we like is you take a bite of rope and you lace it through this shoulder strap, you lace it through the waist, through this shoulder strap, and you pass it back up. Then you pull on that. Same thing. You've got that waist strap in, right? So you've got most of his torso out. No, you're absolutely right. Another thing that I always thought was interesting about that drill is it's a weakened floor, and now we're putting 4 people
Right
to try and pull them out.
Right.
So we have to find something to do with that, because that's a tough one, right? And we have to get them out.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Basement fires, again, basement fires have shown that if you fall into a basement fire, it's going to be hard to survive that.
And when you do see people survive, very often they got out themselves. You see a lot of situations where there's a survival. It's because the guy was able to get out himself. Guy or girl was able to get out themselves.
Yeah.
And that's another drill that's a pretty good drill. We have a prop at our maze at the training center where literally the floor lets out from under you. And, the drill is to call a mayday for yourself, set off your pad, whatever the case may be, and then get to this basement window. And the residential is like 68 inches off the floor. It's a 15-inch wide window. You put the Halligan into the wall, you step on it. But what I always try and say too is you want to step on it a little bit sideways so your own knee doesn't get in the way. Because if I do it facing the wall, my own knee bent is in my own way, right? So if I turn my leg and turn my body a little, it's a little weird feeling, but I can get a little bit better shot. Then the other thing, and this is more psychological, but I always tell guys, you're probably never going to get stronger. So make that first one count the best you possibly can. Because chances are your third attempt, you're not going to gain strength. You're probably losing strength, so trying to get yourself out. But that's a pretty easy prop to build that is a pretty good drill to train people on trying to get out of a basement themselves.
Well, that's good stuff. So now you just made me change. I think I'm going to change the skill drill for this month. I had one of the things that NIOSH talked about in the report was SCBA emergencies. So I was going to focus on that, but we focus on that a lot. So perhaps we'll do the rope below grade rescue with the rope, and I'll put that in. Hopefully you'll see that, and you could use that, add that to your rescue Rolodex on the lacing the rope through the straps.
Sure.
But if you do need a skill drill and you don't want to do the rope thing, this is a good one here. Again, the emergency procedures. It's always good to practice SCBA stuff. It's quick and easy. There's a couple of different options if you face an out of air emergency. One of them is to buddy breathe. If you have those connections, we've done this before, right? You get the connections out, you make the connection, you can share an SCBA. And again, remember that you're sharing an SCBA. You cannot now stay in and work. The two of you need to get out and go find a fresh air or get outside. So practice that. Another option, if you're totally out of air, is pull that hood up over your regulator hole and filter breathe. Get low, try and get low, and where the smoke might not be as bad, and work your way out. But pull that up, practice that. That's also a skill that you should practice, because you don't want the first time you have to do it to be when you need that skill. So that's a skill drill. Another skill drill we're going to add that the chief just added was some below grade rescue. So we're going to add that to our skill drill this month as well.
And
So
the only thing I would add to that is not really add, but emphasize is, and when you say get low, when you're really in trouble, when you say get low, like you're saying, Chief, is really like get your face on the floor. I mean, when you're in that bad a situation, it's remarkable. 2 feet up, you're just up to your hands and knees or whatever. There's a big difference between that space and all the way to the floor. And it may make the difference. And if I could, there's just one other one. I've been teaching people for probably 4 or 5 years now. And I think a lot of people feel like it's defeatist and scary. But one of the things that I talk to people is, so you're in a situation, Tony, you're in trouble. You've called a Mayday. You're very, very low on air. You're completely lost in the building. What I always tell people is, has anybody ever given thought to converting their own harness? And a lot of people will sit there and say, well, geez, I don't know, that's scary. I don't know if I'd want to do that. But you know what? That might be 30, 45, 90, 2 minutes that doesn't have to be done when someone finds you if you can get your harness converted yourself. And it's probably easier for you to do it than it is for anyone else to do it. So it's a scary thing. A lot of people say, oh no, that's like admitting defeat. I really don't think so. I think it's given me one more option to aid in my own rescue. But is putting that, converting that harness, putting that waist strap between my legs and letting the chief know, or whoever's doing the Mayday. And then so that they now, when they find me, that's one less thing they have to do. And maybe they won't need to do it at all, but if it is, it's done.
That's a good point. And I think we have to do anything we can to assist in our own rescue, right? Whether it's perfecting the lunar call or the who, what, where, whatever you're going to give. It's as important as that, because anybody who's been involved in this training and pulling the down firefighter out, how important that waist strap is in your legs, right? And how much it helps us. So if you can, take the time and do that, again, it's not admitting defeat. I think it's actually, preparing them for success, perhaps.
I think so.
So that was good. How about, I know I asked you before, but you've given me so many nuggets here, knowledge nuggets. Do you have anything else you want to leave our watchers, our viewers, or listeners with?
So the only thing I try and bring up to everybody is every single one of these NIOSH reports, sometimes somebody did something wrong and it cost them their life. Sometimes somebody else did something wrong and it cost somebody else. But always remember, learn from them, but always remember they're people with families and loved ones and friends and everything else. And don't fall into, oh, what this guy do wrong? And it's somehow flippantly done. These are very, very, very personal, tough things. And they may have done something wrong, but they paid for that mistake with their life. And that's a really big deal. And don't forget it.
Well, and that's what I think that was a great thing to end on, because that's what Mondays is about, is we want to remember the person. We want to remember them. We always say we never forget. But do we? I think there's times where if we can put a name, a face with the name and stuff, and know who these people are, perhaps it'll help us to not forget, or maybe even to want to know more. To add on to what you're saying is, nobody wakes up in the morning and says that they want to go to a fire and die. So yes, something happened, but they didn't. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't that they were trying to beat the odds or something. So you're right. There are persons, and we want to remember them. I think hopefully we did Chip and Jonathan some good by bringing them up and talking about them. Chief, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about them. I know I knew there'd be nobody better to talk to them about and the incident. You're a wealth of knowledge and a friend. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much for having me, Chief. I appreciate
Hopefully
it.
I'll see you later this month when I come to Buffalo.
Sounds good.
Before you head out to FDTN.
So
again, everybody out there, look for look for an edit to my Mayday Monday post with a chief suggestion. We'll do some below grade rescue stuff. But thank you. That's the August Mayday Monday. Wish everybody a good out there, and we'll see you in September.